It's time with JMU Hall of Famer Delvin Joyce.
Joyce breaks a tackle and goes in for a touchdown. Another spectacular run by Delvin Joyce.
Alongside one of the best signal callers in JMU history.
Thad Lee, he's got plenty of room across the 50 to the 40. He should make it all the way to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, James Madison University.
Together, the duo bring their unique perspective to the podcast, breaking down all the things they're seeing about JMU football. This is To the House. Now, here's Delvin Joyce with Thad Lee.
What's up, JMU Nation? Welcome to another episode of To the House. I am your host, Delvin Joyce, the People's Choice. I am joined by my guy, future Hall of Famer, Thad Lee. What's going on, Thad Lee? Oh, he's flexing on us.
What's good? What's good? Oh, man. What's good is that we played on a Tuesday. It's Sunday. It feels like it's been so far removed. I'm not sure how long we're going to spend on this game because all the commentary is out there, but our dudes took care of business. Let's get into it.
Man, they took care of business, bro. And you're right, man. This game has been fried, dyed, and laid to the side. I think I've heard every single take imaginable about this team and this game. First off, man, this is our first time recording on a Sunday. Did you get the extra hour of sleep this morning, or did you forget? Like, how did that work out for you?
You know, I ended up waking up at 3 a.m. First of all, I tried to finish watching the World Series Game 7 last night, and I went to sleep right after the Dodgers tied it up. They hit a home run in the ninth inning, and I'm like, man, I love, see, one thing about me, I love watching celebrations when a team wins the championship. That's my childhood. That brings my childhood back into it. That brings when I was a young man, I'm like, man, I can't wait to experience that and go through that. And so anyway, I didn't get to see that. Me, my wife, my daughters, we all crashed on the couch. And that was the game was on, I guess, I don't even know what time it was. But anyway, I ended up waking up at 3 a.m. And yeah, bro, I did not take advantage of this extra hour.
Oh, I got the extra hour. In fact, I forgot that it was fall back. And so, you know, you get that good sleep when you wake up and it's like, man, I slept really good. And it's still only 7:30. That's amazing. But
yes,
by the way, I had no idea the World Series was last night, Game 7. I'm not a baseball fan, man.
Well, I'm not either. I just knew that it was Game 7, and when I turned it on, it was already the 7th inning. So I'm like, this is pretty intense, you know. This is and Toronto was winning, they were ready to win the World Series, and dude hit a home run in the ninth inning to send it to extra innings, and then the Dodgers ended up winning. I woke up this morning, I felt bad. It was in Toronto, and I'm like. Or at least it looked like it was in Toronto. I think it was in Toronto. I'm not even sure. But it seemed like their fans, because they kept showing them, they were crying, oh, we're so close. And,
man.
It was on the second out of the ninth inning, he hit a home run.
That is brutal.
Yeah, so shout out. Sorry to all my Toronto fans. Shout out to the Dodger fans out there.
Shout out to the Dodgers, man, because I've been watching, I'm not a baseball fan per se. Baseball was my favorite, my best sport growing up. But I can't watch it, bro. It's so boring to me. But I've been watching Shohei Ohtani and what he's been doing. And what he's been doing has been absolutely amazing. But speaking of amazing, man, the James Madison Dukes, man, the performance they put in on Tuesday was, I think, absolutely fantastic. And, there was a little bit of drama in the first half. By the way, we went live for the first time during a game, and, that might not be a great idea for me because you can see my emotions in game are not necessarily the thoughtful emotions that I have on a Monday when we're recording To the House.
Yeah, man. It's funny. Usually we're process guys. We need to take our time. We need to process it a little bit. We don't need to be in the heat of the moment. But the good thing is it was out there for that moment. It was live, and hey, it's gone somewhere in the
It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
Unless somebody screen recorded, you did not see the panic on my face because honestly, that I was so excited about the way the offense started, right? And they played really well. I was a little worried about our defense and their ability to continue to contain Brad Jackson for the second half because that dude got off in the first half. What did you see there?
Yeah, I mean, he's an elusive, smaller type of quarterback back there that can make things happen with his feet and that can make things happen with his arm. He is more of a weapon when he starts moving around within the pocket. I thought that we did a great job of containing the pocket, but sometimes when you have such an athletic quarterback, even still, they can find lanes within the rush. I thought we had a guy in each spot. We had a guy on his right, we had a guy on his blind side, and we had two guys in the middle. However, it just wasn't enough to contain him. He's just that elusive, and that's what you're going to get when you're playing against a mobile quarterback like that. He did have that one touchdown pass that was kind of crazy, threw across his body, jumped up in the air.
Yo, that was sick.
That play probably should have gotten called back because I think that was like an RPO type of play.
Yeah.
And they had, I think, two offensive linemen down the field, at least 4 or 5 yards down the field. But the referee let it play,
100%.
and sometimes that happens. But for the most part, I was not, we were on live and I was trying to calm you down like, hey, we're a second half team. Like, I'm not worried. I was hopeful that we can still keep that 300-yard streak going, a team getting less than 300 yards on us.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that streak ended. But we were the last man standing. And, hey, we only gave up, 352 or something like that against a very talented Texas State offense. Like, their head coach is an offensive guy. He was a former NFL quarterback, CFL quarterback, and he has had success in putting points on the scoreboard everywhere he's been, including the Sun Belt. And so I thought we did an amazing job there, keeping them to 20 points.
Yeah, man. And it's like 74 yards in the second half, right? So they got 280 yards basically in the first half and like 70-something yards in the second half, which speaks to, I don't know if it's second half adjustments. I don't know if it's necessarily the defense just getting adjusted to the speed and rhythm of the game, because there's also that, right? When Colin Hitchler was asked after the game, like, hey, what adjustments did you guys make? I think it was Jacob Thomas was asked, I think by Dave Riggert, like, hey, what kind of, do you guys make a bunch of second half adjustments? And he's like, not really. I mean, we just adjusted, but we didn't make adjustments per se. And I'm telling you, man, if this defense can just keep playing in that way, combined with Alonzo Barnett III and this offense just having its way with teams now.
Yeah, and even before we get to offense, because I could talk quarterback, for the whole hour, right?
Yes.
But shout out to our defensive players. I love what you said, and in terms of they adjusted, didn't really make a lot of adjustments, but they adjusted. But one of the things that I saw that they did, they dropped back the defensive lineman, and almost like a extra guy in coverage. So if the quarterback decides to run, they have a guy kind of like a spy guy, right? And on one of them in particular, Xavier Holmes, right, the big defensive lineman, he was in the perfect spot for the RPO. That is coaching to its finest, right? That is like putting your players in position to have success. As a coach, you don't want to be fancy. You don't even want to be known. You want to be known for the guy that puts your players in the best position to have success. And seeing Xavier Holmes drop back and the quarterback threw it right to the spot where he, as a quarterback, I don't think people understand. As a quarterback, you are not expecting a defensive lineman to drop in that coverage, because
100%
pre-snap, you're thinking, okay, the linebacker is right here, the linebacker is right here. They are already kind of out of position for me to throw it here. So I'm gonna take this ball. I already know most good quarterbacking, you know where you're going pre-snap. I mean, that's just, and you just kind of adjust if it doesn't work out, right? But you don't really account for a defensive lineman to drop back into a slant lane where it's an easy completion. And so I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, that was great coaching, man. I mean, honestly, when I look at this team, they are very, very well coached. I was watching the Indiana game, and the announcer, the color analyst, said something about the Indiana team. He said, well, the one thing you can count on is this Indiana team is going to be well prepared and well coached. And right now, that's kind of how I feel about this JMU team, right? I know we had a rough start to start the season, and we felt a certain type of way about some of the coaching decisions that were made. But to your point, I can guarantee you during the week, they showed that exact look to Xavier Holmes in practice, right? and he dropped back and he might have gotten his hand on the ball in practice, or he maybe even picked it off in practice. And then for them to come out and get that exact same look and for him to get the interception in the game, bro, that is 100% coaching and skill from that kid. And you can't ask for anything more.
Absolutely.
I also want to give you some more props, bro, because you said something last week when you gave us a lesson, the To The House audience and myself, you gave us all a lesson on spin. And you said, let me tell you the importance of spin. And you talked about how when you can spin that ball and it cuts through the wind and blah, blah, blah. And bro, it was like 30-mile-per-hour winds in this football game, right? Wind gusts. Now, the announcers, I think Rocky Boyman was the color guy. He talked about how the wind was seeming to affect Brad Jackson in Texas State, but it did not seem to impact Alonzo Barnett III and JMU. I mean, he threw that pass to Nick DeGennaro 70 yards in the air into the wind, right? I mean, I'm exaggerating for effect, but talk a little bit about what you saw out of the offense and specifically, I think Alonzo's ability to throw the ball even in spite of those conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a mature, I've seen a polished, I've seen an experience, and I've seen the Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year drop back to pass 12 for 18, 264 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then that's not even that. If that don't impress you, 10 carries for 98 yards and 1 touchdown. Another 5-game touchdown performance for him. And I mean, he has just been able to show at this point, I mean, he is probably top 3, top 4 quarterbacks to ever come from. And when it's all said and done, I believe he's going to be like the top 3 quarterbacks in JMU history. And it's so interesting because this guy has taken probably more crap than any quarterback in JMU history as well. Think about think about FBS now, the expectations now. Think about the publicity that JMU is receiving nationally now. For him to be able to handle this and play so well on a Tuesday night where you're the only team that's playing, right? And I think you might have said it, night games typically sometimes don't always go in our favor, right? And you think about Louisville early in the year, it really didn't go in our favor offensively, right? But I love how you brought up the spin. Alonzo, we talked about it already. You need to watch 2 episodes ago to get that spin lesson. But this guy can really spin the ball. And when you're able to spin the ball, that cuts through wind. And so that gives your receiver's confidence to know that we are cold proof, right? We're hot proof, but we also are cold proof, meaning that we have the better we play and the more confident we become, our expectation level is going out of the roof. And I know we're going to go over some scores of some other teams, other teams that may have lost this week that kind of puts us in a better situation. But I thought the offense did amazing. I thought Wayne Knight, again, he continues to show up big. I mean, if you look at his stats, 13 for 48 in the rushing game, that doesn't necessarily look sexy, but when you add the 2 receptions for 69 yards, right now you all of a sudden got a total player, and that's what we're looking for from him. We're not looking for him to be an every down back, to be a bulldozer between the lines. No, we're looking to get him the ball, and right now I believe he's number 3 in the nation with all-purpose yards. Number 3 in the
Yeah, he's balling, man. And the bulldozer is Jordan Fuller, man. I'm so impressed with that kid. I mean, the touchdown that he had, and this was one of those attitude plays, right? Where he's so strong, he's pushing the pile. The offensive line is pushing him in, and he's able to stand up with like 6 Texas State players on his back, basically, and he just pushes the pile into the end zone for a touchdown.
Absolutely. I mean, going into this game, you remember I said, like, what we need is, like, they need to feel our weight. And that was the defining play for me where I knew we were good. I knew we were good because that was early on, but it was like, man, they felt that, and that was like you talked about, Delvin, that was a demeanor type of play, not just for him as the running back, but also for the entire team, offensive line, offensive unit, right? That kind of set the tone going forward.
Yeah, when I saw that play, I was like, oh, that's what Vad was talking about. They need to feel our weight because we just dominated. It's also what I think Alonzo Barnett the third was talking about when he said the mentality from here on out has to be kill, right? And, the score is 28-20 at halftime. You and I get on Instagram Live. I'm kind of panicking and just talking about the defense. Somebody in the chat was like, yo, we're a second half team. We're going to be okay. And then, of course, JMU comes out and scores however many unanswered. I can't do the math, but we score. Yeah. We get it up to 52. Texas State scores 0 points. And for the fourth game in a row, we pitch a shutout in the second half, which also now means, Vad, that we have outscored opponents in the second half this season 149-35.
Wow. 149-35?
In the second half for the season. That's insane.
Yeah, bro. And if you one day I'll let you do the math on how many yards we've gotten in the second half compared to other teams in the second half. That's probably going to blow us away, right?
That's the number.
We were smart enough to do that before we got on here, right? But somebody that's listening, hey, do that math for us.
Yes, that would be awesome, man. And I think the other thing that's starting to get a little scary for other teams and our opponents before they play us is that our defense is also now not just stopping people and dominating people like they have been all season. We're also now starting to get turnovers on defense, right? Mm-hmm. Eaglin gets another pick. Barksdale gets a pick caused by a tipped pass, right? And then, of course, you mentioned Xavier Holmes gets the pick. We also got a fumble on a kickoff return for them, right? Because our guys come down and lay the wood. And of course it is, and I put this on my Instagram story, bro, the absolute worst targeting call I've ever heard or seen in the history of targeting. Bro, that was not targeting. I hated that call. And not only do they get the ball, right? Like if that had been a close game and that had happened, I would have hopped on a plane, gone to San Marcos, and I would have had some words for the refs myself.
That's hilarious.
That was a horrible call.
That's hilarious. I wonder, he probably won't even in St. Marcos anymore, but it would have been a fun trip.
So, I mean, I love this that, Texas State, of course, as we all know, is leaving the Sun Belt for the Pac, whatever it is. Is it the Pac-12, the Pac-6, the Pac-12, the Pac-8? I have no idea what it is, Pac-Man, but Texas State is now leaving the Sun Belt. And the irony is they have not won a Sun Belt game this season. So I love that this is the farewell that they're actually getting on the way out to the Pac-12. No shade to them, man. Good for them. But it's just
big Sun Belt guy right here. You guys hear him? He's a big Sun Belt guy.
Hey, SEC stand. Hang on now. Hang on, SEC stand. But listen, man, I just think it's just kind of cool that, y'all ditching us and y'all haven't even won a game in the conference this season. But speaking of games around the country, there was a lot of football this week, man. And of course, because the Dukes were off on Saturday, I got a chance to sit on my couch and watch a lot of football. Actually, I watched football on my iPhone because I had to go to Chapel Hill. It was family weekend at UNC Chapel Hill, so we went to see my daughter. It's weird the way they do it. It's not family weekend for football. It's just family weekend for the university. So the football game was away, but they had families come in for the weekend to see their kids.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was weird. So we just took her to brunch, and I'm watching football on my phone. But so got a chance though when I got back from Chapel Hill to watch a lot of football. And man, some of the scores were very surprising. Now, of course, Memphis wins, and right now you would say that Memphis is our quote unquote main competition for that group of 5 spot. But the big one was North Texas and Navy. Now, Vad, I know you were calling the game for the Citadel this weekend. Did you get a chance to watch any of these games?
No. So Saturday was a big day for me. I did the commentary for the Citadel. I had to be there at 12. That's when college football starts, right? The game was at 2. Got there at 12. That was an electric game. If you guys got a chance to catch that electric game, came down to the wire. But then right after that, I also had a speaking engagement at 7. So the game ended at 5. Then I had to be at a speaking engagement at 7, which is about 40 minutes away. And so I had a busy Saturday. So I didn't watch any football. But I did see on my phone just a few teams. Obviously, some of this don't really matter to JMU, but obviously I follow Georgia Tech, right? They've been having an amazing season, and they lost to NC State They've never
NC
been
State.
8-0, and that would have been the first time 9-0 for a long time, right? And so they lost to NC State, and then Miami lost to SMU. And
Yeah.
so that's another team that I work with and I get to speak to. And so these are teams, any team that I speak to, I follow them. I want to know what's going on. And so those were two games that were like, wow. And then I know you got some games, obviously not Sun Belt implications, but JMU playoff implications. There were a lot of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny when you mention the ACC, because I think there are some playoff implications there. There is a very unlikely scenario that I'll talk about in a second. But, man, I was rooting for Georgia Tech, man, because I want to see, I'm always going to root for the underdog and the team that's not usually in the conversation, which is why I want to root for Indiana, right? If not for, the guy that's leading the team, right? I would probably root for them. What? As an underdog, as the team that's like on the outside looking in with all the big boys, right?
Bro,
not getting the credit.
You're slowly hopping on the Signetti's train. I'm not. No. At first, you were like, "Man, bump that, whatever." And then, like last week, you said something, and you was like, "I did not say." You started to defend yourself. I did not say he wasn't a
I've
good
never
coach.
said they
and
suck.
This week, you're saying I'm rooting for Indiana.
No. I didn't say I'm rooting for Indiana. I said I would want to root for Indiana under normal circumstances to explain why I'm rooting for Georgia Tech, right? Now, what's interesting about go ahead.
just jump on the Indiana train. Again, I used to be the team chaplain there, so I'm already on the train. Actually, the funny thing is I'm a part of this men's group every Friday morning. I've been a part of it for like 4 years. Every Friday morning, a bunch of guys from Bloomington, Indiana, who I get on a call with every Friday morning at 6:30 a.m. So shout out to the Hoosiers. Hey, we're rolling.
So they've heard about the Vadley Shepherd staff. Okay, that's good to know, man.
Hey, we gotta get our listeners somewhere. We gotta recruit everybody.
Oh man, no doubt. Well, what I was gonna say about the ACC right now, man, the team that has beat the best conference performers this year is NC State. NC State beat UVA, right, to start the season, and now they've taken down Georgia Tech, the top of the conference for the ACC. Now, the UVA NC State game was actually an out-of-conference game, which is dumb, right? A lot of people don't understand that. NC State beat Virginia, but it technically was an out-of-conference game because NC State got rid of their game against App State, paid App State off because they didn't want to play App State this season, said, we'll pay you guys the money, we don't want to play you, and they scheduled UVA as an out-of-conference game.
Interesting.
Yeah, but what I was going to say about this scenario, right, like, again, correct me if I'm wrong. Some of our listeners, I'm sure, will correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the CFP, the top 5 highest rated conference champions actually get an automatic bid, right? Mm-hmm. There is nothing that says that the G5 only gets one playoff bid. You with me?
Yeah.
It's the top 5 highest conference champions. And there could be a scenario with all the chaos in the ACC where the American champion and the Sun Belt champion are higher rated than the ACC champion, right?
Yeah.
And the ACC, right? So there would be, am I thinking about this wrong? So then the 5 spots, no, I don't see it happening either, but it's feasible that it could happen.
It technically can happen. I believe so. Yeah, I believe you're right.
And then the ACC would have to rely on an at-large bid to get into the playoff.
That would be crazy.
Right?
That would be
wild. But you let Memphis win out and win the American, and JMU win out and win the Sun Belt, and then the committee's got to make a decision. And if those two teams, let's say, are higher rated than the team, because the ACC, right, they may have a team that goes into that conference championship game that pulls off an upset against who they want to win it. And now that team might be a 3 or 4 loss team that's not going to get put ahead of a Sun Belt champion or American champion Memphis or JMU.
Yeah.
right?
Well, the ACC is kind of looking like the Sun Belt right now, where you got, they're kind of beating up on each other, right? You might get
Yeah.
a upset here. You might get a team that you didn't think was going to win there, and it's interesting. And I mean, shout out to Louisville as well. They picked up another win. I forget who they played, but
They played
right in
Virginia
the-
Tech, and I was worried, by the way. I was worried because they were losing to Virginia Tech, I think, going into the second half. And I was like, man, if Louisville messes around and loses this game to Virginia Tech, I mean, it's a double whammy for JMU because it takes the shine off of our good loss, right? And then it's also Virginia Tech gets to say we beat the team that y'all lost to, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, speaking of Virginia Tech, I'm seeing a lot of press that says James Franklin and Virginia Tech is a done deal. So that's interesting. And then also we got to add to that Auburn just fired their head coach. So there's another open door.
God.
Obviously, we have a red hot coach that people are talking about, and I'll be honest. The dude was looking crispy on the sideline, not crispy in a good way. His hair was like spiked up. I mean, his hairline was like perfect. And like,
You think he was
it's almost-
interviewing? You think
Bro,
he's
it almost felt like
auditioning?
it almost felt like this. He knew like this was his interview Tuesday night. Nobody's watching any other game. If you're an athletic director, what game are you turning on the Tuesday night? You're going to turn on the hot hand. James Madison they're pretty good. I keep hearing about this Bob Chesney. Let's turn it on. Dude was looking like, I mean, it was an interview. It was an interview, and our team had his back. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Oh my God, bro, that is hilarious. And in his defense, the dude gets a haircut like every 2 days. So I can't say that had anything to do with it. But you might be right, man. I mean, obviously he's a hot name. I'm hearing that Jeff Brom is like the leading candidate. So Louisville's coach is the leading candidate for the Penn State job.
Bro, I called that. I don't know if we got that on, but
we didn't.
Oh man, I wanted some
You're
credit.
making it up after the fact.
I wanted some credit for that, bro. Like, I really do think he's the perfect man. And another coach that I believe that's really that deserves more props is dang, his name's escaped me, but the Minnesota coach.
Yeah.
The Minnesota coach has he wears the suit and tie. The dude he's been doing well throughout his whole career at Minnesota and beating teams that he shouldn't beat. And so I also think that he's another name that may get thrown into the mix.
Interesting. I think, I mean, listen, man, I think there is a chance we keep Chesney and staff. I don't know that there's a chance that we keep Colin Hitchler, but I mean, the ADs or whoever, Matt Rohn, everybody, they got to try to get an extension done, like lickety split. But the challenge is there's so many good jobs open right now.
I've never seen this before. Have you?
Yeah, never seen it. And the hard part is, man, professionally, you can't, he could sit out this go round, but some of these really top tier, really good jobs aren't going to be around open for another 4 to 5 years. And so if he sits out this round of the coaching carousel and says, I'm going to stay at JMU, then he's probably got to be committed to staying here for another 5 to 6 years to get one of these jobs that he might really, really want. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know I say you got to stay 4 years at a minimum. I can't even say that I would be upset with him because there's a lot of once in a lifetime opportunities that are going to be floated his way. And it really just, depends on whether or not he can make it work. Right.
But you're upset at the 70-year-old who left the program knowing that his time is clocking out.
Why are you trying to make that man 70, bro? He's like 60 something. And I was never, by the way, I was never upset with Cignetti for leaving. I mean, I want to be on record and make sure I said that because I did say that previously. I was never upset with him leaving. I was upset with him raiding the team, right? You take 15 or 20 players or whatever. Hang on, let me finish. You take however many players you took. I think that is fundamentally wrong. I think that is dangerous. And I also believe, bro, take the best 5. You took 7 or 8 players that sat on the bench for you at Indiana that didn't even get a chance to play, who could have been contributors at JMU. And I'm telling you right now, if Chesney Bob Chesney, I hope you're watching this because I know you watch To the House. If you leave JMU and you take 20 players with you, I'm coming for you, bro. It's going to be on site. It's going to be on site. I'm going to bring my clippers and I'm cutting his hair, bro. He's going to be so upset. I'm going to cut all of his spiked hair off.
Hey, he cut all he doing is coming for you on To the House podcast. That's his biggest weapon right there. To the House podcast. That's gonna get him.
Oh,
Delvin.
yeah, no.
That's gonna get him now.
Every episode, bro, I'm dogging Bob Chesney.
Hey,
But honestly, man, I just think that's wrong.
I'm gonna call off on that week. I'm gonna call off. That is
I mean,
hilarious.
listen, here's the thing. I will say, though, man, I mean, like the Charles Huff thing, because we're going to get into this when we start talking about Marshall, right? The Charles Huff thing, I think, was a little different. Charles Huff essentially got fired, right? And so, like, if you got fired and some players wanted to follow you because you had the locker room, that's a whole other situation. I still don't think it's great. I don't think it's a great look for college football because every time there's a coaching carousel, right? But I really would hate that we have to go to Virginia Tech. We finally get our shot at Virginia Tech again. James Franklin is there with a bunch of Penn State kids, right? And Virginia Tech is loaded. And now our coach has left and taken our best players. And now we go down to Virginia Tech to Blacksburg with, the replacements. Yeah. And now we get embarrassed in a game that we should have an opportunity to win next year, no matter what.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it goes back to the comments that Coach Chesney said, we prepare above our level, right? And so I'm putting us, I don't believe that Sunbelt, can compete with in terms of, outside of JMU, really can compete fully with the ACC conference. But I really do see JMU as like an ACC type of team, right? And so playing against Virginia Tech and, having them on the schedule, those are games that we fully believe that we're going to go in and take care of business, just like ODU did, by the way, from the Sun Belt. So shout out to them. But the other thought here too, in the same, light, kind of different, but same light, is I haven't really seen this out there, but my question is, when at the end of the game, JC Evans comes into the game, right, at quarterback, is there a possibility that Matthew Sluka, I don't know, but is there a possibility that he could redshirt and save a year to come back next year?
I want to say he's played in 4 games this year, right?
Well, he didn't play at home last week, and he didn't play at Texas State this week. How many?
No, he played at Old Dominion. He threw a touchdown pass.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. So he played Weber State, Louisville, definitely. He didn't play. He played a play at Georgia State, right? We know we hated that play. He played a play against Louisiana. We hated that play. Yeah, he's definitely played 5 games.
Is it games or is it the percentage of?
I think it's games. I think if you appear in a game, you're redshirt. I think honestly, man, and I can't remember who said this. Maybe it was the JMU Sports Blog podcast guys, Todd and Rob. But I feel like, I might agree with them. They said that they think it was just sportsmanship from Chesney, right? It's like, because if you put Sluka in the game at that point, right? Remember, at this point, that kid had gotten hurt. We had the long delay. He got carted off the field, and thank God that kid is okay. By all accounts, he's checked out of the hospital, so that's great news. But if you put Matthew Sluka in, it's almost like you still got you still got a starting caliber quarterback in the game. Like we're trying to run the score up at 52-20. And so by putting JC Evans in, it's like we're getting our redshirt freshman or sophomore some games.
Yeah, I don't buy that, but I feel like there's more to it there, because if I'm a senior and this is my last year playing ball, and not only I'm just any senior, but I had some starts under my belt, I'm gonna get as much film as I can get to, and this is my guy, my coach. He's gonna look out for me, right? You would think that there's something else there. I'm not sure. I thought maybe there was a chance that he could redshirt. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But at the end of the day, we know that when you come in with a coach, especially coming in on that level where they were at Holy Cross, and now it was like a reunion.
Right.
they're going to take care of each other, right? That's somebody you got to kind of take care of, and we understand that. We appreciate that, right? And so, yeah, I think it's more there, something there. I don't know.
But Sluka seemed really involved in the game, man. I mean, he's talking to Alonzo on the sideline. He's talking to Chesney.
I've seen
I
the
think he's
difference.
probably, yeah, 100%. And you know what? Good on him, man. I mean, because the other part of it is he's got to prepare like he's the starter every week. All right. We all know injuries happen. And so, hopefully he's got that mentality and that mindset going into this last stretch of the season. I do want to go over a couple of more scores, man, because there were some interesting things that really shook up that G5 landscape, right? And the big one was UTSA blows out Tulane, right? And Tulane was still in the conversation, still had a path to get there. They were receiving more votes than us last week. And now UTSA takes them completely out of the conversation. The other one was UNLV, right? They have a one-loss team, still kind of in the conversation in the Mountain West. If they could win the Mountain West Conference Championship, they probably got a shot, except that New Mexico beat them this week. And then the other one was Fresno State, right? And I'm sorry. Yeah, Fresno State. They beat Boise State. And Boise State, even though they had 2 losses, sort of trending in the right direction. We all know the media loves Boise as sort of that, kind of David and Goliath sort of story. They have been perennially David in the G5. And so Fresno State takes care of business, takes Boise out of contention. So really at this point, I mean, the team we got to worry about is North Texas, right? Because they're a one-loss team. Their one loss is pretty bad, but they're a one-loss team. And by the way, they lost to South Florida. So it's not a bad loss per se. They just got blown out in that game, right? So it's North Texas, Memphis, and San Diego State, which I'm not worried about San Diego State because San Diego State lost to Washington State pretty handily, who JMU still gets to play. So
Yeah, man.
pretty exciting stuff, man.
Yeah, it is exciting. And at this point, are we ranked yet? When does the rankings come out? Sundays? Mondays?
Yeah, they came out just now, man. I mean, I just looked at the poll. If I had to have you guess how many votes JMU got in the AP poll, right? Last week I think we had 9.
9, right?
Do you know how many we had this week?
Double that.
This week we got 53 votes. So we are the 27th ranked team in the country right now. Iowa got 71 votes, so I guess that technically makes them 26, and we are right behind them with 53. We are ahead of San Diego State, North Texas, and South Florida. Now, obviously, none of that matters because it's all about the CFP rankings, right? And what how the committee ranks everyone. But again, I think that we are trending absolutely in the right direction, which is why that as we transition to Marshall, this game is so important. Now, Marshall, of course, just lost to Coastal Carolina. What'd you think of Did you see any of that game on a Thursday night?
Yeah, that game was very interesting. It was. We'll get into Marshall, but I feel like Marshall kind of gave it to him a little bit, and it was interesting. I mean, the score doesn't really indicate the score indicates what happened, but
Right.
we can go into more details of what actually happened and make the score that way.
Yeah, so I first off, I really did appreciate Coastal Carolina's uniforms. I know people were hating on the uniforms. I saw a lot of bad press about those uniforms because they had it almost looked like a Miami swag, like pink and all the different colors on it, but it was glow in the dark. I thought it was cool, man. I was feeling it. Shout out to Coastal for trying something new.
They've been trying everything different this year. Like their fans get free concessions as well. So I mean, hey, they're just throwing it out there.
No, I'm gonna tell you something, man. That is a marketing 101, bro. Remember when the airlines, after 2008, the Great Recession? You probably don't remember because you were in 3rd grade, but the Great Recession happens, and all the airlines now are like, we don't give out peanuts and pretzels and drinks on the plane. And I'm like, you know what? Charge $5 more for the flight and give me my freaking peanuts, right? And because I won't even know the difference. And I think for Coastal, it's like, if you can charge just a little bit more for the ticket but then say that the concessions are included, you can probably charge more for the ticket, right? I went to the PGA Championship this past year at Quail Hollow, and they did that. So your ticket got you free concessions the entire day, which is amazing. And it felt like such a value, even though I spent like $130 on the ticket.
Right. And the funny thing is you can start limiting your menu now. Now that it's free, it's like, all right, we're just gonna sell hot dogs and popcorn, and that's it.
That's exactly right. And we go into Costco to get the hot dogs, right? So
Yeah.
so when we think about this Marshall team, man, I mean, honestly, they have, I think, exceeded expectations for the season, right? And, obviously they won the Sun Belt Conference last year under Charles Huff, and he takes the entire team with him to Southern Miss because they didn't renew his contract. And so, of course, I think the entire Sun Belt had very low expectations coming in for this team under new head coach Tony Gibson, who was a defensive coordinator at NC State over the past 4 years. It's so interesting, man. Marshall didn't even have enough players last year to compete in their bowl game, right? So they even had to cancel their bowl game appearance, which is just wild.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give it to Tony Gibson, the head coach, the new head coach at Marshall. They're 4-4 right now. They're in a position to potentially go to a bowl game if they can win 2 more games. I think they got 4 more games left, and so I got to give him a lot of credit because as we talked about off air, Marshall took a lot of Coach Huff took a lot of players over with him, right? And that was like dramatic. Like you said, they didn't have enough players to even play in their bowl game, which was a bad look for their entire athletic program. I think their athletic director ended up getting let go as well, as a result of all of the madness that happened. And so, I got to give Tony Gibson credit, because they have played. One thing I see about this team is they play hard. Right. They have players that are going the extra mile to block down the field. They have guys running guys down. They play extremely hard. And it just seems like he has this team, it may not be the best team, but they play hard and it makes up for where they lack.
Well, I think they also have a chip on their shoulder, which also might be the reason that they play so hard. I mean, you got to think about the guys that Charles Huff didn't take to Southern Miss, right? There's some guys that he took, and that was his Louis luggage, and the other guys were Samsonite. And the Samsonite guys are still in Huntington, West Virginia, and they're like, we got a chip on our shoulder, and I think they're kind of playing into that. Yeah. I also think that, Tony Gibson, I've always said this, whenever there's a new coach, there is sort of a different level of expectation for performance, and so players play harder in those summer camps, and they just practice harder because they have to impress this new coach. And I would even say coming into this Coastal Carolina game, I would say they were outperforming their expectations to be 4-3. But let's not forget, man, Marshall is a very proud program, bro. Like, they are not some Rudy Poo, FCS call up that has never had success. This is a team that has a movie made about them, right? So much so, the game that we're playing them on Saturday is the 75 game. Do you know any history on the 75 game and the significance of that for them?
Is that the airplane situation?
Yeah, I think that's where they honor the 75 people who died in the 1970 plane crash.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I hate that we're going to be the team that has to spoil that for them, because I know that means a lot to them. But, I also have to wonder, they have so many new players, over 60 new players from the transfer portal. I also have to wonder how important that is to these players. Like that 75 game, great tradition, probably loses a little steam now in the transfer portal era for the players, at least.
Yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity for coaches to educate their program, though. I was on a coach's call last week as I do commentary on the weekends. We often, like yourself, Delvin, we often get a chance to talk to the coaches before the game time. And I asked a question to a coach about a rivalry game with so many new players and young players. How I asked similar questions to what you were just saying, and ultimately he was sharing that it's an opportunity to educate the program, and it's an opportunity to share about history, to bring other people back in to kind of share why it's so meaningful. And so, yeah, like you said, man, this is going to be a meaningful game for them, whether they have new players or not, new coach or not. Everybody we have seen the movie We Are Marshall. If you're a football player, you probably have heard about it or may have seen it. It's a very emotional movie. You can't believe that it's actually based on a true story. I remember when I was young and it came out, couldn't believe like this was a true story. And in fact, a lot of guys that play on football teams, their first time ever in an airplane is when they, about to play an away game. And, you often see a lot of funny videos of, players, a little nervous. And man, it just shows that none of us are invincible, right? It just shows that there's still a human element to being a superstar athlete. At the end of the day, you're still a person, and, and so, yeah, man, I think that's very significant.
Yeah, and I think it's probably more emotional for the fans who will be in attendance. So you better believe it's going to be a packed house. And Marshall does a great job with that anyway, man. They travel well, and they do a really good job, I think, of supporting their home team, which is one of the things I respect about them, man. I was trying to watch a lot of G5 football. Part of the challenge for a lot of G5 programs, man, is that they don't get the fan support that we get at a JMU. Right. Yeah. I watched the Middle Tennessee State game against Jacksonville State, and there might have been 50 people at that stadium. I mean, honestly, like it was sad. So shout out to, I would say, the Sun Belt East minus Georgia State does a really good job supporting programs. Now, this Marshall team, right, 4-4, so they opened the season with a loss to Georgia, which you would have expected. The surprise for us, though, was a loss to Missouri State. Missouri State was FCS last year, first year moving up to, I think they're in Conference USA, Missouri State. Marshall loses to them 21-20. Now, I'm going to give them a pass on that loss because that was before they discovered that their quarterback, Carlos Del Rio Wilson, the guy that should have been starting, was actually sitting on the bench for the first 2 games of the season. So I'm going to give them a pass because they are a 100% different team with him at quarterback. So thoughts on Del Rio Wilson and his game and what you've seen out of him so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's 70% completion passer. This guy has thrown over close to 1,300 yards so far, and only 3 interceptions compared to 13 touchdowns. And so he's a big quarterback that can run, right? So he can present challenges on the ground, but he also can present challenges in the air as well. He tries to keep his head up to get the ball downfield. He has an awesome playmaker in Lacey, number 4, the wide receiver, who has over 40 receptions and 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. And so when you take a look at those statistics alone, he has a guy that he likes, right? And he wasn't even starting at the beginning of the year. Now, I do believe that, he is, based on last week, he's prone to do something in the game that can change the game in a positive way for the other team, right? That last game was pretty ugly for him. And of course, he's going to come out
it was ugly,
feeling a little bit more redemption this game to kind of get his face back, right? But he literally went 5 straight drives, I believe, with the turnover. Like it might not have been 5 straight, but it was just like it
was 3 in a row in the second half.
Yeah, and I was expecting to see another quarterback, to be honest. I don't know how you come from that mentally. I don't know how you come back from that mentally. The crazy thing is, Now, this is something that we got to be careful of. Marshall's defense, out of that 3 straight turnover streak, I think Marshall's defense only gave up like 6 points, maybe 9. They gave up maybe 3 field goals. Coastal Carolina couldn't score and capitalize on that, and they were turnovers in their territory. And so, got to give some love to Marshall's defense for helping their offense out there, but it could have been a much closer game had those 3 turnovers not gone their way. But like we said, this guy has thrown only 3 interceptions. Now, 2 of them came from last week. And so right now he's going to go into this game playing hesitant, trying not to make a mistake. Like he was playing free. You know how everybody loves a backup quarterback, right? Everybody loves a backup quarterback because they think that, whatever. I don't know what we think, but everybody loves a backup quarterback. And the backup quarterback brings a sense of energy, a new level of swag, new level of fire and confidence until he does something wrong, right? And now he started off playing really free, and now all of a sudden is like that may be challenged this week.
Now he's got expectations, right? Before he's playing with house money, and now he is the guy. And it's interesting to hear you say that, especially as a quarterback, that, you might play a little tight after he had 4 turnovers in the game. He had 2, he lost 2 fumbles and threw 2 interceptions. When he's taking care of the ball, though, he is a scary talent. I think the good news for us is that this is the 3rd game in a row that we faced a dual threat quarterback, right? Now, he's a little more Colton Joseph, I think, than Brad Jackson, because Colton Joseph was a very physically strong kid who didn't slide. He's going to run and dive head first and take the contact. Brad Jackson, if you saw, every single time he got an opportunity to get out of the pocket, he slid, right? Delreal Wilson is not going to slide. I mean, he's a big kid. He came from Syracuse, right? So he's been in a big time weight room program. I think Syracuse does a pretty good job building their athletes. And so, this kid is going to present some challenges. And by the way, I mean, he didn't even play in the first 2 games of the season, and he has twice the number of carries as both of their running backs, right? So the dude is going to run the ball a lot. He actually reminds me of Alonzo Barnett III.
Yeah, I like that comparison. I think he's a bigger type of runner. But in terms of the offense going through the quarterback, there's no question that Marshall offense goes through how well Delreal Wilson is playing, right? I mean, like you talked about, he has 104 carries. The next guy that's even close to that is at 57. And so, again, mind you, he didn't I'm going to emphasize, he didn't start the beginning of the season. He's their leading rusher, right? And so that kind of tells you that the dynamic that he was able to bring that maybe another quarterback wasn't able to bring, he was able to open up another element of their offense. And so they do a lot of different things with motions. We talked about Lacey. He doesn't just catch the ball, but he also runs the ball as well. They try to get him in the backfield some. They try to do some different things. I would be on high alert for trick plays this week where you get a guy like Lacey, you bring him in because there's so much attention around him that we're going to put on him. You hand the ball off to him, let him throw it down the field. I think screen plays, they do a lot of different things within the backfield pre-snap before they even go forward. And so I will be on high alert for that because they know going into this game that our defense has not given up a lot of opportunities, especially in the second half, as a whole game as a whole too, but especially as a second half team, they know they got to take advantage of the second half and then be creative in the second half.
Yeah. What would you say JMU has to do defensively to contain Delreal Wilson, especially considering that they use that, to use Chesney's language, the +1 run game a lot of designed runs specifically for Delreal Wilson?
Yeah, I mean, we really have to just continue to bow up. And I don't know if a spy is necessary. I mean, this guy can run, right? But a lot of his runs are design runs. So I wouldn't necessarily say a spy for this game is like probably the better move. However, just making sure that we ensure that we're fit well, we're properly fit into each gap, and we have a gap accounted for on every play. We cannot get a letdown on everybody got their backs turned, all the defensive backs, the linebackers with their backs turned, running the other way, trying to take care of coverage. We really just, honestly, man, our defensive backs just have to really step up this game and strap up and lock down, because if we are worried about getting beat, that means our linebackers and our second level players are worrying about where they need to be in the coverage, and that now takes eyes off of the quarterback. There's no question that this team it goes based on how the quarterback goes, and I don't think he is. He's had some big games in the air, but I don't think that I'll live with him trying to beat us in the pass game.
Yeah, I will too, man. I mean, he's got a very capable arm. I'm more concerned about him using his legs to beat us, especially because what we've seen from Colton Joseph and Brad Jackson, at least in the first half of those last two games. Let's transition over to their defense for a second. They opened that Coastal Carolina game with basically a pick six from, what was his name? Boogie Trotter, I think is his name, their corner. Gets a pick six to start the game. What have you seen from them on defense, and what do you think our offense has to do to get on top?
Yeah, you talk about Boogie. He wears number 1 for a reason, right? This guy, and Coastal Carolina quarterback tried to throw a wide side out route, which is not, even for the best quarterbacks, is not smart. Now, I do believe we had a guy in Alonzo Barnett who has the arm strength to be able to do something like that, but I wouldn't want him to, right? We don't need him to. We don't want him to. And so you have to be smart, especially with a guy like that who has 4 interceptions. I think he has 5 interceptions on the year, and 2 have been returned for a touchdown. So obviously look out for number 1 if you're on the offense. Some misdirection run plays. I think, maybe counters and different things where we can get some misdirection. This team seems to over pursue the ball, which is maybe a good thing, but sometimes can be bad with misdirection and counter type of plays where everybody, those linebackers are really flowing, and now you all of a sudden, I believe that the cutback lane is going to be there. You can cut this clip up and and put it on the game on Saturday, because I think that we're going to have some plays that Wayne Knight is going to be able to cut back. Those cutback lanes are going to be really well, and they run this 3-4 type of defense. However, it's very similar to a 4-3, because what they do is they have 3 guys with their hands in the dirt. However, they always have an edge man. They're not just sending 3. They're going to send 4 and 5 guys. You just kind of don't know which one they're going to send, because they got 2 guys on the edge that are kind of like, that either one they're standing up, but either one can kind of either drop back in coverage or, attack the run game. And so, or come for pressure to try to get to the quarterback. So I think, in terms of offensively, I've seen a lot from our offense last week. It seems as though our offense continues to evolve, and it's been a fun offense to watch when it comes to JMU. It has been, I typically, I study the players. I don't always study coaches, but one coach name you do hear outside of Bob Chesney is Dean Kennedy. I mean, that is a name that you have heard over the last 2 years outside of Bob Chesney. And so I think Dean Kennedy's name deserves to be said in a very positive light, because this guy has taken this JMU offense, is almost like the focus of their offense has concise especially because they trust their quarterback. But because they trust their quarterback, it has become concise, but yet it has exploded, because now the possibilities of being creative, drawing it up, I can only imagine his time alone where he's like drawing up plays, because we have a lot of different playmakers on this offense.
Yeah, I've never seen a comeback in season the way that I've seen Dean Kennedy have a comeback in the face of the fans, right? Like, I mean, there were so many fans that were ready to literally just throw him out of town after the Georgia State game, right? And now he's come full circle, man, to where, he's throwing up 50 plus points in back-to-back games. Now, I got to tell you, man, we had some harsh words on our Instagram live about the double reverse flea flicker in our own end zone into the boundary against Texas State last week. We did not love that call, but you know what? Let it fly, man. So I'm okay with it, right?
Yeah.
I think it was compounded and made worse by Alonzo's decision to throw the ball. So maybe it wasn't a bad call. Maybe Alonzo just has to make a better decision in that situation, right? But I mean, I love that this offense is now humming. And I do think that this Marshall game, it kind of sets up like the Texas State game, where this is the opportunity because that is their weakness, right? I mean, you look at this Marshall team right now, they are giving up 413 yards per game, which is good for 11th in the Sun Belt overall. Now, when you think about points per game, they're also giving up 32.5 points per game, which I think ranks them 10th in the Sun Belt this season. And I got to say, I was probably expecting more from them because their coach, Tony Gibson, is a defensive coach. But when I go back and look at NC State last year and their defense, he gave up 391 yards a game and 30 points per game. So literally, I mean, he's doing essentially what he did when he was at NC State. Maybe somebody just really, wanted him as a coach in Huntington, right? Because I don't know that I would be that impressed with a defensive coordinator giving up almost 400 yards a game and 30 points.
Yeah, that thing was a done deal. It seemed like that it was a done deal for him to be in Huntington to lead that Marshall program for a while. But yeah, no, not very impressed. I wasn't really impressed with their defense as a whole, to be honest with you. I think they have some players here and there, but I think that we, have an opportunity to be physical up front. I didn't really see a lot of penetration from their defensive line. And that's where it starts. It starts in the trenches, right? And so your skilled players can be skilled all they want, but if you're not tough in the trenches, then that's going to provide challenges for you throughout the game and the longevity. And that's why we've been so good, because the longevity of the game, we have been able to get better as the game goes on. And so has been a strength for us.
So the other thing that's interesting to me is that, this defense is actually pretty good against the run. I think they're third in the Sun Belt against the run. Even though they gave up 214 yards to Coastal Carolina last week, they're only actually giving up 146 yards per game on the ground. Now, again, that's a tall tale from where JMU is. We give up 80 yards per game. Where they've struggled is they give up a lot of passing yards. They are dead last in the Sun Belt. They give up 266 yards in the air. And this is where I'm looking at our playmakers, man. I mean, Nick DeGennaro has just exploded onto the scene over these last 2 weeks. Dude is fast, by the way, outrunning everybody. We still got Landon Ellis out there, who's going to be a great possession receiver, who's going to make plays. Wisłowski in the screen game. We got Wayne Knight out of the backfield. We got Jalen Sanchez across the middle and on the screen game. And then we got some other guys that could be weapons, like Pfeiffer, who had a great catch against Texas State. We got Logan Cowell. We still got Lakota Dupree, who we haven't seen it. We didn't see him a lot last week. So again, this is where I'm looking for Alonzo Barnett to do it 3 games in a row, right? Let's get that consistency going. And the mentality has to be to kill. And that kill has to start, I think, on offense this week for JMU.
Yeah, I think, and I love the fact that you threw out the stat with the Marshall's defense being ranked 3rd in the Sun Belt, because I totally feel like that this game, even though they struggle in the pass game, for some reason I'm feeling like our run game is just going to dominate this week over the pass. I think the pass game is going to be well, but yes, we need to continue. Right now, we're on a trend in our pass game that is like fire right now. That is almost like we're a pass team run second. But, traditionally, or, what we think, this team is a very balanced team, and that's what JMU offense is showing us, right? However, we kind of feel as though the run game kind of kickstarts the pass game. But recently, the pass game kind of kickstarting the run game, but I do kind of feel like we're going to get back to our runway, in terms of not necessarily having to rely on Alonzo Barnett to be the leading rusher, but allowing our dynamic running backs to to, maybe 2 or 3 guys getting that 50, 60 yards like we've been in the beginning of the season.
Well, I think the thing that, we've been talking about is how powerful it is when you're a quarterback who's a threat to pass the ball, when you use him in the +1 run game. And that's why I think we've had the success with Alonzo running the ball. And one of the things that we put on film this past week at Texas State was a speed option. I don't know if you saw that. Like, we ran a speed option. We had not run that. I mean, I don't know the last time we ran speed option. And if you watch the Coastal Carolina Marshall game, Coastal Carolina ran a speed option play, and they took it 59 yards to the house, right? The quarterback pitches it, and the running back goes to the crib. I mean, Marshall did not defend that well. So I'm curious if that's going to be something that we see this coming week as part of the game plan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great call against a team that runs a 3-4 concept, simply because that last man on the line of scrimmage, your tackle and the defensive end, your tackle can get outside of that defensive end to seal him, to make a seal block, but then you got one more guy that's left on the edge, and he has to now to make a decision. Is he going to go for the pitch or the quarterback? And so it's a great call, especially if we could get our single receiver to transfer over, to motion over to the other side with the other receivers, and now all of a sudden you might have one, maybe 2 guys on that side, and you have a numbers advantage. And so I think we're going to need to do a little bit, some different things in the run game, where it's like maybe an option, maybe a misdirection type of play, but still got your core run plays that you feel really confident with.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right, man. I mean, just again, spread the ball around on offense, do what we've been doing on defense, play fundamentally sound, gap sound football, tighten up the run fits, and make sure they tackle. I mean, Coastal in a lot of cases didn't tackle very well, which is how Marshall was able to hit some plays on them. They just got to make sure they tackle and maintain their run fits. So again, they got to get through this game. That big game here. I think we crack into the top 25 if we win this game impressively. If we barely win it or squeak by, I don't know that we crack the top 25. But boy, I got to tell you, man, coming back on November 15th, the App State game, and then the following week we got Washington State for the Marvel Superhero Day, which is pretty cool, right? Man, those are going to be some big fun games.
Absolutely.
Right. All right, Vat, you know what time it is. Now, normally it would be time for What You Talking About, Willis. But this week, I actually combined my What You Talking About, Willis with my To The House closing commentary.
What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis?
All right, Vat, I'm going to go ahead and take us to the house, man. And so here we go again, right? It's November, and the college football playoff narrative is going down its usual path. You see, college football is the only ecosystem left in American sports where reality and perception are miles apart. And that is why this playoff conversation always feels like we're debating ghosts. Because the media bias is real. The P4 benefit of the doubt is real. The way we talk about wins and losses is not equal, and it never has been. Alabama lost to a legitimately bad Florida State team in a game where they looked flat, disorganized, and nowhere close to elite. They were given a "they'll figure it out" week 1 forgiveness card before the post-game show even ended. The entire national conversation that night was, Bama is Bama, they'll bounce back. Meanwhile, JMU wins a sloppy, imperfect game versus a bad Georgia State team, and suddenly the entire framing becomes, see, this is why JMU isn't a playoff caliber team. Look at Georgia this week, Vad, right? Against a bad Florida team. They barely squeak by and win by 4 points, and the SEC is praised for its parity. JMU and the entire G5 get no such benefit of the doubt. That's the separation right there, though, right? Not the actual football, but the narrative. Because the actual gap between P4 and G5 is thin. As someone who went to the NFL as a Division I AA walk-on and beat out a bunch of P4 players for a roster spot, I can tell you the talent gap isn't as wide as you would think. And besides, it's not 2011 anymore. Through the portal, the top of the G5 has built, portaled, and developed well enough to beat what I believe would be 40% of the P4 on any given Saturday, given the opportunity. But the sport doesn't want to admit that because it breaks the clean hierarchy that they're all comfortable with. And that hierarchy is about the dollars. It's about the Benjamins. If you don't believe me, then just start listening to the commentary because they're starting to say the quiet part out loud. Here's my what you talking about, Willis. My guy from CBS Sports, Todd Furman, a couple of weeks ago, here's what he said when talking about the playoff picture. He said, college football parity is great until we get USF and Georgia Tech in the first round of the playoff and nobody watches. So let me get this straight, Todd. It has nothing to do with the talent and the play on the field or the hard work the players have put into the season. What it comes down to you, Todd, what it comes down for you is TV ratings. Todd, Furman, what are you talking about, Willis?
Talking about Willis.
Now listen, what are you talking about? Now listen, there is no doubt that the SEC and the Big Ten have the ratings and the pageantry with the 100,000 seat stadiums. Listen, I get it, but that doesn't mean that a team like JMU couldn't make noise in a CFP, period. That is not delusion, and it is most certainly not bias. That is talent, it's coaching, roster construction, and actual results. Because this is the part of the year where America tries to talk itself into believing a 9-3 SEC team belongs in the playoff, while the same people will try and talk you out of the idea that JMU could even hang. And this is where we all, JMU Nation, this is where we need to plant the flag. Because if you want a more open, more honest, more real playoff system, stop grading football teams based on logos and TV partners and start grading them based on what they do on the field. Because if college football ever actually gave these programs a real pathway, not a marketing campaign, the sport would get wilder, less predictable, more equal, and far more entertaining. And JMU wouldn't just belong in that room, they'd be dangerous in it. All right, JMU Nation, we have taken it to the house. SEC Stan, what do you think about that, man? You think I'm biased over here, or you think what are you thinking?
You almost make me feel like we compete with the SEC. It's like, no, I'm just playing. I love it, man. No, man, I love it. I had, I love that segment because, it does create a bit of equality and context. We talked about this one week where context is important, right? You can look at a game and see that, a team that was in a close game or a blowout game without actually looking at the game. And now all of a sudden you see a score that you can sell your own narrative versus what actually happened, what you got to factor in on what is going on. And so, I think that's context is important. And then also we've seen a great example of when you give other teams an opportunity. When College Game Day showed up at James Madison in 2015 for the first time, right?
Right.
The guys on set, Desmond Howard, this is the greatest environment we have ever been in.
Yeah.
That's because you got a bunch of hungry people that we've been here. It ain't like we just showed up. We've been here. Now you finally gave us an opportunity. And so to prove that, I think that kind of goes to your point as well. So
that's exactly right, man. And the talent, I'm telling you, bro. I mean, you've played professional football. You know what the talent looks like.
Well, then too, going from Georgia Tech to James Madison, one of the, the question that people used to ask me, and this was before transfer portal. Imagine now,
right?
Even when I got there to JMU, I was surprised with Well, first of all, and I went to a triple option. Georgia Tech was running triple option then, but I can tell you one of my deciding factors to come into JMU is because our offensive line averaged 6'5", 315 or 305, something like that. But they were all above 6'5". And I just remember like, wow, I didn't have this at a ACC school, so this is going to fare well when the NFL scouts come, watching my film, seeing me behind a 6'5" offensive line. You got guys like, that went to the NFL like Sage Harrell, defensive end, who could run like a 4. Like, dude was fast off the edge. And so anyway, I can get into all of that, but it just kind of shows you like there's not a huge difference in terms of talent. Now, of course, you got those outliers, right? You got those teams.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Of course you do, but you got those in the NFL, right? And so stop comparing us against the top of the SEC, right? We get compared to the top of the SEC. Guess who else can't compete with the top of the SEC? The bottom of the SEC, right? I mean, SEC, right? You hang your hat on Georgia every year. Georgia's blowing out everybody, for a couple of years there. So again, I don't want to get on my soapbox, but I'm going to die on that hill, bro. The talent and the gap is not that wide.
Especially now.
Let us compete. Let's go. And by the way, we're not worried about the college football playoff that. We got to beat Marshall on Saturday. Let's go ahead and take this to the house, man. Go Dukes.
Go Dukes. 1-0. Go Dukes.